everybody, Cobra here with turn 5 for the Eastern Pact. Now I've started over here in South America with sad news for the Allies as the Argentina-Chile faction aligns itself to the Russians for Russia's diplomatic role. And I just wanted to, I guess this kind of is like a little bit of strategy, but this shows, in my opinion, that the Allies, I think, I do have some, different setup for this game, so they are a bit stronger. But even in the normal setup, the South American nations are some of the strongest in the game, and I don't know, I just think that if you're the Allies or the Western Alliance, I strongly suggest that NATO, maybe NATO and America, try to concentrate their actions in aligning all of these states. I think Pacific Coalition should definitely focus on Indonesia, as it's very important, but these states, if you don't align them, you just keep getting these little pop-up, basically insurgency, as the Americans, they finally kick out the northern holdouts of Mexico, and now they've got to deal with Chile and Argentina. So they are launching an assault with their infantry and MBT into Brazil, likely going to take it, but also likely going to fall next turn, considering the American forces in the area. So that also gave the Russians a frigate, which will maybe move in non-combat. There's not much it can do. In other combat actions, for the most part, the war is kind of turning into a stalemate because of the forces getting built up, so nukes may be needed to break this thing up. So the Russians are using a submarine to launch a cruise missile attack on the U.S. Little task force. Nothing much is happening in Europe. As you can see, the NATO faction has a lot of units built up here, and the Russians and Caliphate don't have enough to really meaningfully take them out. The Russians are launching a sub just to try to get a first strike on those carriers and then submerge. Over here, the Caliphate aligned Madagascar, and they are launching a cruise missile against the carrier force in the Red Sea. We have a Caliphate and Chinese cruise missile coming for India to try and soften them up. And then getting up here, so the Chinese are using their 2 airborne from Japan and a fighter to launch an attack against... Oh, and the Chinese did research long-range drones this turn, so they now can use a drone going 4 spaces. So they're launching an attack on Guam, as the Americans can't really counter that right now. And up north, we have 2 subs launching cruise missiles against the damaged fleet up there. And lastly, we have the Chinese blockade off the west coast firing a cruise missile to try to take out that helicopter that could maybe take it out if it remains. So that is the combats for this turn, and I hope to see you in the success that we will have, or hopeful success that we will have, after the combat has been concluded. Right, everybody, that was pretty quick, as there wasn't a ton of combat to do. As you can see, they had pretty big success up here in the Bering Sea, as the 2 cruise missiles both hit, one target selecting the supercarrier, which was damaged, and the other one knocking out a guided missile destroyer. So now you can see that the US doesn't really have a Pacific fleet anymore, which is a big problem for them. They are going to have to build one from scratch if they are to do anything about that. As you can see here, the Chinese came in force and invaded Guam, which is now under their control. Let's see, cruise missile assault on India completely failed. Cruise missiles on the fleet over here failed. Nothing really happened in Europe, although that sub did damage the NATO supercarrier but did not sink it. The Brazilians took off an infantry, which is nice. It'll make the Americans have a little bit easier of a time taking out that Russian MBT and those 2 zones again. And other than that, not much happened anywhere else. So, getting into placed units and non-combats. Alright, so first off, we have some non-com movements. So, I guess we'll go like this into the Pacific theater. So, first off, this MBT here is going to be sea lifted all the way down to Southeast Asia, these two MBTs here are going to drive down to Southeast Asia. Actually, now that I look at it, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay, this MBT from Japan is actually blockaded by these subs. He can't really get anywhere meaningful, so he'll have to stay up there. We will sea lift an infantry from Manchuria across the Sea of Japan into Japan. We are also going to airlift an infantry from East China into Japan. Although, too, there isn't much threat to Japan, although there is a couple of US airborne, so we don't want to have any untimely surprises with those guys. Let's see here. Okay, so this fighter here came 1, 2, 3 with the drone. He only has 1 space left. He'll be landing on this LHD as the same with the drone. Then we have this airborne here. He is going to go... Now this airbase is destroyed, so until that's repaired, he can't really do much. He'll just go into... Let's see, we do have an airbase down south, so we might want to move him there. You know, we'll bring him up to East China for now. There isn't too... Actually, yeah, not too much we can do with him. We can't airlift him out because he was at that damaged base. Alright, so then we've got these 2 infantry will stay here. 2 infantry moving into Southeast Asia. And then getting into Chinese place units. This dice tray out of here. We have started rebuilding the Air Force, so we've got 1 fighter going into Southeast Asia. We have a fighter being built on Japan. Then the LHD here is going to pick up 2 infantry from Manchuria. Actually, I keep wanting to reinforce Japan, but there really isn't much need. We'll take 1 infantry from Manchuria. That should prevent any airborne assaults from coming in here and conquering that. Also, we have 2 jets that they're going to have to get. Actually, now that I look at it, this jet prevents any sort of airborne assault, so we'll leave that infantry in Manchuria. Then we will take... The airborne here is going to hop on the LHD and come to Japan, so he has a farther range now. Then we've got a couple more units to place. We have an airborne, which will be built in East China. We have another infantry, which will go into East China as well. And I think the fighter that was built in Japan is going to go into East China. And then we have 6 infantry, which are getting placed in southern Asia, and that is, so it's worth 5, and it has 2 industrial capacity, so that's 6 infantry, and we can still build that jet down there. Alright, getting on to Russia. They will be nothing much going on in the East Asian sphere. Coming over here, we've got 2 new MBTs, one going into the Balkans, one going into Poland. We have, we're gonna rail 2 infantry up to Poland. We'll build 2 infantry down here in the Caucasus. And we have 1 last infantry, and he is going to go all the way into Argentina. So, yeah, just to mount a token defense against those American forces. Alright, getting on to the Caliphate. We have, try to get everything that they possess in the camera here, more or less. We have a new sub for the Caliphate, and I think we're going to pull the Navy back for now. I don't want to. It's not really at a risk for anything, so we'll keep it up here, and that fighter can kind of participate in little bits of combat. We do have a new sub though being placed. I really like the Caliphate sub. It's a very cool looking sculpt for it. Lots of little dive fins and stuff. So that'll be placed off the coast of Egypt. There isn't a lot of industrial capacity for shipbuilding, which makes sense. We have a new tank getting placed in Iran, and we have an infantry going into Spain. You can see that over here, and an infantry going into Iran. Plus, 1, 2, 3. We have the LHD is going to go 1, 2 back and forth, and it's going to take an infantry from Turkey and East Africa, and they are going to be actually okay. So this guy can move 2, so he's going to go up 2, hop on this guy. That's 2 infantry in Spain now, and one of these guys is going back to defend Somalia. Alright, and I think that's just about it for the Caliphate and everybody. So, hope you guys enjoyed this quick video, and I will see you again in the Allied counter-assault, as they are not looking too good now.